Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all tonight. Special ceremony as we honor our Coast Guard personnel that are active here in Port Huron. We're going to start off with the posting of the colors by the combined U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Honor Guard. They'll be followed by the national anthem sung by the Port Huron Schubert Male Chorus. So if we could have the posting of the colors, I'll ask those of you that are civilians, I know that all of those in the military know when to salute, but I would ask that you join in with them. If you would stand and place your hand over your heart for the presentation of the colors. Thank you.
Lord, ho! Lord, ho!
Thank you. I'll ask that you remain standing for the invocation. I'd like to introduce Chaplain Herbert Griffin of the 9th Coast Guard District Chaplain.
Please pray with me. Almighty and everlasting God, in whom we live and have our being, we invoke your presence as we begin our celebration of the birth of the world's greatest Coast Guard. We remember with special gratitude those men and women who have carried the U.S. Coast Guard's banner throughout its noble history. Some have fallen while in defense of our country, while others have marched on after preserving life and property. Grant us your holy presence as we celebrate your goodness shown through the work of the citizens of the city of Port Huron and the service of the United States Coast Guard. This we pray in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. You may be seated. If there's anyone out there that needs a chair, the Red Cross has some chairs across the street, and feel free to grab them and bring them over. Don't take them home, but bring them over. I'm Alan Kutcher. I get to be the chairman of the Coast Guard Committee. I get to be your master of ceremonies, and I also have the honor of being the mayor of the city of Port Huron. So I get to wear 3 hats tonight. Actually, I'm glad I'm not wearing a hat. It's kind of warm up here tonight. I did want to acknowledge some people. I put together an original list, and I was going to say, oh, I need to introduce so-and-so and so-and-so and recognize all these people. And I started down the list of sponsors and people who have been involved with this year's Coast Guard Days, and the list got too long to read. I brought a copy of the placards up here that list all the people, all the organizations that have gotten involved. We started out with 5 or 6, I think, last year. We're well over 100 groups that have been involved, either as a main sponsor or sponsoring some of the tables for tomorrow night's dinner. I do want to acknowledge a few of them tonight. I guess first and foremost, I want to acknowledge all the active duty personnel in the Coast Guard, both the Coast Guard station on the Hollyhock, out of District 9 or out of Detroit. So if you all stand up, if you're not standing up, you are standing up. Let's give them a round of applause. I mentioned that we have representatives from Coast Guard District 9 here tonight, from Coast Guard Sector Detroit. We have the Coast Guard Auxiliary with us, well represented tonight. We have the Port Huron Power Squadron with us tonight. We have the Commodore of the Port Huron Yacht Club with us tonight. We have the Knights of Columbus back with us again. We're glad to have you with us again. The Schubert's Men's Club Choir is back with us again. They started with us from day one. The group, and not all the members, but the group is 100 years old, I think, this year. So happy birthday to you. Those that are 100, you can sit down. And a special thanks, of course, to the citizens of Port Huron who have come here tonight to start the weekend celebration that we're going to have for our active duty personnel. A special thank you to the committee that has been working on this. This committee actually started 3 years ago. Our first event was held last year. We started a year in advance planning it. It is a volunteer committee. Everyone volunteered for it. Nobody got drafted into it. It is the only group I've ever been involved with where everybody comes to every meeting. They come early and they stay late, and they all do their assignments. As chairman of the group, it's the easiest group I've ever worked in. I think they've done a fantastic job. So if you see anybody wearing one of the shirts that they had to buy, we didn't supply the shirts either. If you see somebody wearing one of the shirts, especially if you want to get involved, say hello to them and thank them for the work that they've done. There are, of course, some special people that we want to acknowledge. We need money in order to put on this event, even though most of it appears to be free as we go through all the things tomorrow. But we do provide a free meal for all the active duty Coast Guard personnel and the retirees and for their families. So somehow we have to pay for it, and we go out and we try and find a few sponsors here and there that'll help us out. Let me just acknowledge a few of them, and for those of you who are coming to the dinner tomorrow night, you get to hear the whole rest of the list. Citizens First Foundation is the official host sponsor for the entire weekend, and I think Citizens deserves a round of applause for what they have done. Chase Bank is the official sponsor of the honor service that we're holding tonight, and you'll hear from Mary Langoff, the district manager of Chase Bank, in just a few minutes. For the Sunday event, Town North Community Group is going to be our official sponsor, a new group that has joined in with us. They're going to be the sponsor of the Challenge softball games that we're holding. Everything that we printed says we're going to have some games at 1 o'clock on Sunday. And we were originally going to have the Coast Guard challenge the police and fire department in Port Huron. And there became such a fight among each of the groups that we now have expanded it to 3 games. We're going to start at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. And I don't think I have the list with me, but it's going to be the Port Huron Police against the Coast Guard, one of the Coast Guard units, and then the fire department against another one of the Coast Guard units, and then a playoff for the championship. And as mayor and as chairman of the committee, I'm rooting for all of them to win. So I mentioned that there are, we put on the dinner tomorrow night, a large portion of what we're able to raise is through table sponsorships. I'm not going to read those names tonight. I'm not going to read them tomorrow. I would hope that you get a chance to read them on the back of your program or on the signs here. Each one of those people donated $250 towards the cost of sponsoring a table so that we can provide the free meals for the active duty personnel and their families and the retirees and their families. We, of course, could not do this without the help and assistance of Atchison Ventures. Atchison's always likes to stay in the background, and I'll pick on them a little bit more tomorrow night during my comments, but just a fantastic group to work with. We couldn't have done it without them. And of course, Port Huron Hospital Foundation, who has been with us since day one. So we appreciate that very much. If I change my hats, when we wrote this program up last year, we didn't know I was going to be mayor of the city. So we were going to introduce the mayor of the city to present a couple of proclamations here tonight. So I get to change my hat. I get to present proclamations to Chief Jeff Eccleston, Officer in Charge, Coast Guard Station, Port Huron, and Lieutenant Commander Mike Devanzo, Commanding Officer of the USS Coast Guard Cutter Hollyhock. And if I can have you gentlemen come forward, I appreciate it. I'm not sure that everybody realizes how warm it is standing up here in the sun, you know? This is a proclamation of the City of Port Huron. Whereas the U.S. Coast Guard has an important presence in our community, with men and women stationed here at both the Coast Guard Station as well as aboard the Hollyhock. And whereas these men and women and their families have an economic impact on our city, as well as an impact on our schools, our churches, our civic organizations, and our businesses. And whereas Coast Guard personnel provide us with security and are an active part of the community. And whereas many of the former Coast Guard members have retired here or returned here because of their positive experience in the community. And whereas it is the desire of the Port Huron City Council to honor the U.S. Coast Guard personnel, both past and present, now therefore I, Alan D. Kutcher, by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Port Huron, on behalf of Council members Fisher, Haynes, Jacobs, McCullough, Neal, and Sample Wynn, do hereby proclaim August 25th, 26th, and 27th as Coast Guard Days in the City of Port Huron. We urge all citizens to join in the celebration and give proper recognition to the importance of the United States Coast Guard and to thank the men and women who have served faithfully in this branch of the government service. Jeff?
Very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. I'm going to ask them to say a few words in a minute. I'd like to introduce an old friend of mine, State Representative Phil Pavlo, for the presentation of a proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor Kutcher. It's certainly a pleasure for me to be here today. Part of my job is I'm very fortunate enough to go around and recognize great service, whether it's Eagle Scout Awards, the Girls Golden Scout Awards. But today is kind of special because in Lansing, part of my duties, I sit on the Veterans and Homeland Security Committee. And it's very important that we be able to tell our story in St. Clair County. And we look back in our backdrop here today and we see the great water that many people in tourism come from around the state to enjoy. We also have an international border crossing here. And it isn't by mistake that the Coast Guard is here and such an integral part of our community. I've had a proclamation drawn up, and if you gentlemen would like to come back up, I'd like to read it to you. And it says, "Let it be known that I am proud to join with the City of Port Huron to celebrate Coast Guard Days and honor the men and women of the United States Coast Guard. These days signify the unselfishness and commitment displayed by our U.S. Coast Guard. Today, August 25th, we offer our thanks for the gift they have shared with Port Huron and the state of Michigan. Since its founding in 1790, the Coast Guard has been America's primary maritime law enforcement service. This organization has adapted to changes and faithfully maintained their mission of service to the citizens of a great nation. True to their motto, Semper Paratus, the United States Coast Guard is always ready to serve through such roles as defender, lifesaver, law enforcer, guardian, protector, facilitator, and educator. Here in St. Clair County, we are exceptionally lucky to have their presence. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to applaud the United States Coast Guard for all of their contributions that they have made to our community, state, and country. May they know of our sincere gratitude for all they have done on our behalf.
Thank you, Phil. I'd like to ask Mary Langhoff to come up. Mary is the district manager for Chase Bank. They are the official sponsors of tonight's event. Mary?
Thank you, Alan. I just want to tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to be able to be asked to sponsor this event. And as a representative of Chase, I get to say thank you to those who put this event on. You put a lot of man hours and into this event, and it is well deserved. And as a person who has lived here all my life, and we were talking among many of our employees who have lived here all our lives, we were talking about how we take advantage of what we have right here. And we take for granted what the Coast Guard really does for us, day in and day out. So it is my privilege to say thank you from all my employees for what you do. We hope that you and your families enjoy this weekend, but to let you know that our thoughts, our prayers, and our gratitude extend beyond just this weekend. It goes the entire year and for everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We appreciate that. If I can ask Jeff to come up for a few remarks, please. Jeff?
Captain Brennan, Commander Devanzo, Master Chief Jennings, Mayor Kutcher, Mary Langhoff, Representative Pavlo, crews of the cutter Hollyhock at Coast Guard Station Port Huron, and members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, as well as all distinguished guests present. Good evening and thank you for coming. I am Chief Petty Officer Jeff Eggleston. I'm the officer in charge of the Coast Guard Station here in Port Huron. I want to welcome you to today's ceremony. Before I go any further, I'd like to take the time to recognize the combined, where'd you guys go? Color Guard, Honor Guard from the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. For those of you who are not aware, it's important that you note that the auxiliary, not just this color guard, but the auxiliary standing here beside me, are volunteers. They don't get paid. They're here because of their sense of patriotism and their commitment to this country and the missions of the Coast Guard. So if you would quickly just give me a round of applause and thank them. Thank you. That would actually give them a round of applause. We are here for our second annual Coast Guard Appreciation Weekend. Last year, as you might recall, the weather, what's the word I'm looking for, was subpar. This year, I guess the verdict's still out. I took the pleasure of looking at the National Weather Service website before I came here, and this is what I found. Today, chance of showers and thunderstorms. Tonight, chance of showers and thunderstorms. Saturday, chance of showers and thunderstorms. Saturday night, what do you think? Chance of showers and thunderstorms. And Sunday, the day that this event ends, partly sunny. So I don't know what the deal is, but let's hope that the forecaster is wrong as far as the weather is concerned, because I'd like to have a nice weekend here for everybody involved. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize all my brothers and sisters and the other branches of the armed services. As we stand here today, many servicemen and women are laying their lives on the line all over the world. Although this weekend is dedicated to the Coast Guard, I think it's important to recognize all the military members from the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Coast Guard. And I'd like to sincerely thank them for their unselfish service and dedication to this great nation. I know that they are not all here represented, but I would ask that you would keep them in your thoughts this weekend as we go forward. Like I mentioned, this is Coast Guard Appreciation Weekend. There's a lot to do for those of you who are interested. The station the Hollyhock, the Fort Gretchen Lighthouse are all going to be open for tours. I encourage you to take the time to visit these sites as well as the others that are open this weekend. This is a great opportunity for you to see how the Coast Guard operates in your community. We will also be doing a search and rescue demonstration on the river with a H-65 Dolphin helicopter and one of our boats from the station. This will be done twice tomorrow in front of the Maritime Center at Vantage Point. The helicopter will also be landing for tours as well, so please take advantage of that. I'd like to close by saying thank you to the officials and the citizens of this great city of Port Huron. I know I speak on behalf of the crews of the station and the Hollyhock when I say that we truly feel at home here in Port Huron. My 2 years here have been terrific. I found out today that I have 2 more to go, most likely. And I'm excited to be here in the city of Port Huron. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike?
Representative Pavlo, Mary Langoff, Mayor Kutcher, Captain Brennan, Chaplain Griplin, Master Chief Jennings, Chief Eggleston, crew of the Hollyhock, crew of Station Port Huron, Coast Guard Auxiliary, distinguished guests, friends and family of the Coast Guard, good evening. I want to start by saying don't let the weather distract you over the weekend. My crew pointed out to me yesterday that rain is only tears from heaven. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to be here for the second annual Coast Guard Appreciation Days in Port Huron. But I'd like to start by thanking the committee and the sponsors for making this event possible. Throughout the course of the year, we had the opportunity to participate in several of the planning meetings this year. We came away impressed by the commitment and effort of this volunteer committee. Their sense of duty is inspiring. The crew and I appreciate all the hard work that went into making this second annual Port Huron Coast Guard Appreciation Days a reality. Thank you. Would you please join me in a round of applause for the committee? There must be some truth in saying time flies when you're having fun. Perhaps we had too much fun because it seems like only yesterday we were here kicking off the inaugural event. It's been a busy year for us. We traveled over 5,000 nautical miles, going as far north as Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on the St. Mary's River, as far east as Sackett's Harbor, New York on Lake Ontario, and as far west as Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin on Lake Michigan. We spent 223 days away from home port. During our travels, we patrolled the border, broke ice, conducted search and rescue, law enforcement, and homeland security operations. And of course, we serviced aids to navigation. So it was easy to understand the crew's excitement as the Blue Water Bridge came in view upon our return to home port. A home port we call Port Huron. Port Huron continues to be a great home port. The genuine friendliness of the people, the patriotism, and the appreciation for the Coast Guard are amazing and second to none. We feel welcome. Thank you. This year we experienced a 35% crew turnover. With the closing of base housing at Selfridge, our new shipmates and their family are calling Port Huron and the surrounding communities home. Home, a place to live, a place to play, a place to grow, and a place for memories to begin. Since we last met, 2 crew members were married, 1 crew member is engaged, 4 new children were born, and 1 is on the way, and 2 shipmates retired. Chief Machinery Technician Doug Fairbanks, chief of the boat, retired after 22 years of service in July. He completed 2 consecutive tours here in Port Huron as a member of Bramble's decommissioning crew and Hollyhock's commissioning crew. He now resides in Marysville with his wife Sharon and daughter Amanda. Chief Warrant Officer Derek Johnson, engineering officer, retired yesterday afternoon after 30 years of service, having been afloat since 1992. He completed 3 tours on the Great Lakes. The Old Salt will remain in Michigan with his wife Alita and sons Delvon and Delane, making their home in Saginaw. Between these 2 men, they have 52 years of service. And we're dedicating a brick in this plaza to each of them to commemorate their dedicated service to this great nation Their ties to Port Huron will remain forever. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Fairbank, will you please come forward? Thank you again for your service. Again, thank you for joining us here tonight. Enjoy the weekend. We look forward to seeing all of you at the Seaway Terminal. Please keep all those serving around the globe in your thoughts and prayers. May God bless the men and women of the Coast Guard, the City of Port Huron, the surrounding communities, and America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. It's my honor to introduce Master Chief Petty Officer Frank Jennings, United States Coast Guard, District 9.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to correct Captain DeVonzo. When he called Mr. Johnson an old salt, he's actually got some time on the ocean. 3 tours on the Great Lakes, you know, it's not salty. So, you know, he does have a little bit of salt in his system there somewhere. I don't want you to be confused by that. He is old, though. Well, you know, 216 years ago, President Washington established the Revenue Cutter Service as a means of protecting the economic interests of our new country. And they must have done a good job because in the years since, they kept dumping on a multitude of new duties. Most notably were in 1926 when they combined the Revenue Cutter Service with the U.S. Life Saving Service to form the modern Coast Guard. But the evolution of the Coast Guard didn't stop there, and it certainly hasn't ended yet. Today, 44,000 Coast Guard men and women stand ready throughout the world. Some are at aids to navigation units, like the Hollyhock, aiding our nation's commerce. And some are at law enforcement units or marine safety units enforcing our nation's laws and regulations. Some are at search and rescue stations, like Coast Guard Station Port Huron, saving lives. And some are patrolling the waters of the Northern Arabian Gulf. In fact, right now, the Coast Guard cutter Resolute is transferring 94 migrants that were found attempting to illegally enter the United States near Great Iguana in the Bahamas. And that's a very gut-wrenching mission. Last night, a Coast Guard C-130 and a Coast Guard H-60 helicopter evacuated a very ill crew member off a commercial ship 280 miles off the California coast. And that 280 miles has got to be about the fuel limit of that helicopter. And then a few days ago, 3 young Coast Guardsmen from Coast Guard Station Oswego in the 9th Coast Guard District saved the lives of 2 people who were washed off the beach. And tragically, a 3rd person was lost in that. The Coast Guardsmen on the boat jumped in the water, swam out, grabbed the nearly drowning person, and pulled him back to the boat. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old people that do this. Coast Guard men and women, your sons and daughters, friends and neighbors, serve America with great pride and great success throughout the world. The lessons of Katrina, New York, and Valdez, Alaska are not lost, as we constantly strive to be semper paratus, always ready. As a native Michigander, the other side of the state, the good side. All right. I could never get up for sunrise, so I just appreciate the sunset. As a native Michigander, I'm proud to be a Coast Guardsman. And as a Coast Guardsman, I take great pride in thanking you, our Port Huron neighbors and friends, for your support. Thank you.
Sign couldn't take the comment about the wrong side of the state. It's my pleasure to welcome back to Port Huron Captain Patrick Brennan, Commander, United States Coast Guard, Sector Detroit. Captain Brennan?
Good evening. It's a beautiful evening here in Port Huron tonight. Representative Pavlo, Mr. Mayor Kutcher, Ms. Mary Langoff, thanks for your generous sponsorship of tonight's event in Chase Bank. Members of the event committee that have put a tremendous amount of effort into this event, and it looks like it's going to be better than last year and better than ever. Master Chief Jennings, thanks for coming. Mr. DeVonzo, Commanding Officer of the Cutter Hollyhock, Chief Eggleston, Officer in Charge here at Port Huron. The men's Club Schubert Choir, thanks for your rendition of the National Anthem this evening. Also, I'd like to thank the Coast Guard Auxiliary Color Guard for their fine presentation of this evening's colors. That was a wonderful job, and thank you again for participating in this event. They were here last year. Men and women of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, members of the Coast Guard, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Rear Admiral John Crowley, the commander of the 9th Coast Guard District, the men and women of Coast Guard Sector Detroit, the crew of the cutter Hollyhock, and the men and women of Station Port Huron, I'd like to express our sincere thanks to the city of Port Huron for hosting the second annual Coast Guard Appreciation Days. All Coast Guard members here in Eastern Michigan are deeply honored that you would recognize our service so generously. According to the dictionary, a memorial serves as a remembrance of a person or of an event. Tonight, as we take a moment to remember those who have given, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, the last full measure of devotion, let us remember 2 Coast Guardsmen who recently made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. While conducting dive operations off the Coast Guard cutter Healy in the Arctic Ocean last week, Lieutenant Jessica Hill and Petty Officer Stephen Duke died in a tragic accident. Our thoughts and prayers go out to their families, their shipmates, and all those who loved and cared for these 2 fine Coast Guardsmen. But this tragedy also serves as a reminder to all of us that Coast Guard service has its dangers, and that every day our members assume a great deal of risk to ensure the safety and security of our nation's citizens. Not everywhere in the country is the Coast Guard so deeply appreciated as it is here in Port Huron. Particularly in some of our larger cities around the country, our service to the public often goes unnoticed. Those living near our air stations routinely complain about the noise generated by our aircraft that must fly and train at all hours to be ready for their missions. Some citizens resent our law enforcement mission, which often puts us at odds with those who would like to drink and boat or engage in illegal activities. But here in communities like Port Huron, our efforts are noticed, our efforts are appreciated, and as a result, a warm friendship and relationship is fostered in the community between Coast Guard members and the citizens they serve. Here in this portion of the Great Lakes, it's easy to see our men and women perform. The cutter Hollyhock comes and goes from here, works buoys right behind me here in this waterway and many others, and breaks ice in the winter. Our icebreakers, working in partnership with the Canadian Coast Guard just across the river here in Sarnia, keep this waterway open in the winter. And the men and women of Station Port Huron serve the public daily here, saving lives, enforcing laws, ensuring boater safety, and saving lives. Just the opportunity to serve with these fine men and women makes me very grateful. As the commander of most of our Coast Guard resources in this region, I appreciate their service every day. They stand duty selflessly, with many of our members spending more than half of the year on duty. The cutter Hollyhock over 200 days underway last year, and the men and women at the station are on duty half of the entire year in what we call a port and starboard duty rotation. Daily they live their service motto, Semper Paratus, which is always ready. I commend the city of Port Huron for continuing their tradition of honoring the Coast Guardsmen who serve in this area. It can only serve to strengthen an already great relationship between the city and the Coast Guard. On behalf of all the Coast Guardsmen that serve in Eastern Michigan, I say thank you to the city of Port Huron. May God bless all of you, and Semper Paratus.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask Chief Eggleston to come back up, please, for a reading of Crossing the Bar.
Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no morning of the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full of sound and foam, when that which drew from out of the bournless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Thank you very much, Jeff. If those of you are going to attend the dinner tomorrow night, Jeff is going to do the MIA POW missing person dinner presentation. I forget what it's called, Jeff, but it is the most moving thing that I have ever seen. I've told him each time that I've gone through that I end up so choked up, and I'm the next speaker that has to say something, so it is absolutely moving. There are some dinner tickets left if you Want to pick some up tomorrow at the terminal. I had to get a plug-in. We have actually only about 30 tickets left, I think, out of 340 that we intended to sell. So we thank everyone who's joining in with us. I'd like to ask the Porter and Schubert Male Chorus to do the Coast Guard anthem, please.
North and south and east and west, the Coast Guard's in the fight, destroying subs and landing troops, the axis fields are high. For we're the first invaders on every fighting field, afloat, ashore, on land and spars, you'll find the Coast Guard shield. We're always ready for the call, we place our trust in thee. Through howling gale and shot and shell, to win our victory. Our victory's ever Paratus is our guide, our pledge, our motto too. We're always ready, do or die. My Coast Guard, we fight for you. We're always ready for the call, we place our trust in thee. Through howling gale and shot and shell, to win our victory. Our victory semper paratus is our guide, our pledge, our motto too. We're always ready, do or die. My Coast Guard, we fight for you.
Absolutely great, thank you. I'd like to ask Chaplain Griffin to come back up for the benediction, followed by the retiring of the colors.
Receive now the benediction. Lord, as we leave this setting, we are mindful of the men and women who are standing watch over deep waters. We remember those who stand in harm's way for our benefit, and we ask that you would protect them and allow them to feel your presence this day. God, we ask a special blessing on this city and our nation's Coast Guard. Grant us continued success and harmonious relationships, and we will remember to give you the thanks and the praise forevermore. Amen.
Forward! Huh!
Thank you. Very moving. If you want to have a chair, we're almost done. Bear with us here. I want to remind everyone that tonight at 8 o'clock at the Maritime Center down at the Vantage Point, there is a showing with Rick Mixter of the Great Lakes Maritime Center of cutter rescues. It's a free open event, first come, first serve, limited seating, so we're going to all race down there right after the event. We'd like to close tonight with the singing of America by the Schubert Male Chorus, and I'm sure that they would be glad to have you join in with them.
Of the sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's right, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Let music swell the breeze and bring from all the trees sweet freedom song. Let mortal tongues awake, let all that breathe partake, let rocks their silence break, the sound prolong. Our fathers, God, to thee, author of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our land be bright, with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, great God, our King, great God, our King. My country is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's right, from every mountainside, let freedom ring, let freedom ring.
Thank you. I want to remind you that tomorrow at 3 o'clock at the Maritime Center, that the Schubert Male Chorus will be singing on the deck out there for the first time. We're going to have a concert there. Bring your chairs. You can sit along the seawall. You can eat your ice cream and French fries down there. So thank you. I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. We kick off the weekend celebration in a little more somber tone than normal, and it's a little difficult for me not to make some wisecracks. If you come to dinner tomorrow night, you get all the wisecracks. I get to pick on everybody. I said there are a few tickets available. Take advantage of what's going on tomorrow. All the events are free during the day from 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening. Go through the new Coast Guard station up here. Those of you that can, climb up to the top of the lighthouse. I saw Bob Hanford out here. He'd be glad to have you come on up there. Come on down to the lightship. Come on down to the Maritime Center. Come on down to the terminal and go through the Hollyhock and the Bramble and the Gray Fox and the Highlander Sea and whatever else we have down there. Also at the Maritime Center tomorrow is a continuous showing of the history of the Coast Guard. Stop in and see that. Thank you for participating tonight. Thank you very much. Good night.
Talk to you later.
of blue, containing the stars representing the states our veterans served in uniform. The Canton field of blue dresses from left to right and is inverted. The Canton field of blue dresses from left to right is draped as a pall on a casket of a veteran who has served our country in uniform. In the Armed Forces of the United States, at the ceremony of retreat, the flag is lowered, folded in a triangle fold, and kept under watch throughout the night as a tribute to our nation's honored dead. The next morning, it is brought out, and at the ceremony of reveille, run aloft as a symbol of our belief in the resurrection of the body. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold of our flag is a symbol of our belief in the eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veteran departing our ranks who gave a portion of life for the defense of our country to attain a peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature, for as American citizens trusting in God, it is to Him we turn in times of peace, as well as in times of war, for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country, for in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all our enemies, whether they be found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day, and to honor Mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of the men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, for he too has given his sons and daughters for the defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of a Hebrew citizen, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies, in their eyes, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eyes of a Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies, in their eyes, God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. When the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our national motto, "In God we trust." of a cocked hat. The cocked hat is ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today.
Colors. Ready. Step.
This concludes the flag folding ceremony. In one moment, the Coast Guard Combined Auxiliary Color Guard will be performing a silent drill team movement exercise